Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaming and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim. Let's get into it. Today we're joined by a special guest. You know them, you love them, because we have Patrick.
Yay! We have Patrick.
Yes, Patrick's here. Hello.
Patrick, baby, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm coping despite the sweatiness of the heat and, general life. But we're doing great.
Yes, it is offensively hot in the UK at the moment, I must say. As an Australian ginger who fled from the sunlight of Australia, I did not sign up to be a Brit to endure this heat. All the jokes about cloud and smog, and I was like, yes, give it to me. My pale skin demands it. But no, so I feel you there, babe.
Well, you guys can both count yourselves lucky that you don't have smoke from 1,000 wildfires currently drifting across your entire country. Like, the smoke has made it all the way to Cleveland. And so, I mean, there's like the air quality has gone way down, the heat's going way up. Like, yeah, we're all just kind of looking towards the west. Like, when is this shit going to be over?
So, Tim, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about what it's like to be exceptionally tall and be a gainer, because Patrick is an exceptionally tall person.
Yes, Patrick, for the listeners, how tall are you?
Well, I'm 6'8" / 200. No, not 200 meters. Jesus Christ, that would be tall. 2 meters and 5 centimeters for you metric folk out there.
Yes, the metric system, the way that God fucking intended shit to be. Oh my God, I will never get used to imperial measurements. I just don't
have a hell of a time when you come over here to the US, because they didn't even bother to teach us the metric system.
Girl,
They tried to introduce it back in the 70s when my parents were growing up, and the teachers revolted. They were like, we don't know how to do this shit, and they gave up.
See, that's amazing to me, because metric is like units of 10. It's like,
no, you would think that it would have been something to easily adopt, but I don't know. I mean, we're American. We don't do anything the easy way.
I mean, you could be British. We had to learn both.
Yeah, that does confuse me. Why are you guys on both the imperial and metric? Like, why can't they just switch over completely?
Don't ask me. Something to do with hating the French, probably.
Knowing the Brits now living here, I wouldn't be surprised by that notion in the slightest. I will say pounds and stone really fucks me up, because at the very least you could justify it like foot and inches, units of 6. Like, okay. Stone was like, how about every 14 pounds we roll over?
That's so weird to me. Why that number specifically?
There's probably an easy fact out there somewhere about it. No?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know? That's perfectly fair. But Patrick, we've got you on today to talk about your lived experience as a very, very, very tall person. And I think this is going to be an interesting one to speak on and to learn about, because obviously there is this huge disparity of like gainers who weigh a certain amount and the height that they have, creating vastly different shapes. And we're all kind of low-key aware of that, but we still love to compare and contrast and think, oh God, I wish I had what they have. But as someone who is so exceptionally tall, I would imagine you experience that relatively regularly, either from your own lived experience or people projecting that onto you. So I'm curious, growing up, were you big as well as tall, or has that only really come about as part of your gaining journey?
Oh, I was always, chunky. I was the kind of kid who was like offensively tall, and everyone was like, oh, you need to do sports, you need to do sports, you need to do sports. And I was like, but I want to read. Reading is fun. Let me just sit in the shade with like some crisps or like and a drink and just read while you kick a ball around and do, straight things.
At what point did you hit your growth spurt? Like, what age could you remember?
I don't actually think I ever had a growth spurt. I think I just kind of grew steadily each year like a redwood. I had a growing season and then a season where you stop for a bit and then you grow a bit more.
I love that for you. And humorously, there is a bit of a tree motif with your gorgeous self. You've even got the green hair to go with this glorious canopy up on top, which, I mean, I love the humor that you have when it comes to owning your height and owning your dimensions. I think it's really refreshing and it's marvelous because it's a way of clearly taking something that could potentially be awkward or uncomfortable and turning it into a source of power. Do you feel that for yourself?
Oh, definitely. Like, I used to hate being like tall. I still have my moments, but I used to get picked on a lot for it because it's just another thing that made me stand out. If it wasn't the tall, it wasn't the height, it was the gayness. If it wasn't the gayness, it was the weight, But like, I was like, you know what? I can't help being tall, so I might as well just accept it and just enjoy being tall.
I think that's pretty fair. Isn't it amazing how many things in our life we rally against? I don't like the shape of my nose. I don't like the color of my hair. I don't like this or whatever about me. And maybe there are things that you can do to try and mask it or hide from it, but there is that inevitable moment where you do just kind of look at it all and you get so frustrated at how much time and energy you spend in just concealing and you go, fuck it. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to be okay with being me with whatever this feature is. And if people don't like it, they can truly go and do one. So I get you, babe. Tim, you're 5'10" from memory, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that average height in the US?
I think that the average height for a man in the United States is still somewhere around 5'8". I think that statistic may have changed. So like I am on the taller side for a man. I'm taller than my boyfriend. But for the most part, I dated people my own height or taller. Matt is really the first person I've ever dated that was shorter than me.
How does it make you feel?
I mean, I think that when I was younger, I kind of equated, taller men as being not necessarily stronger, but I don't know, just like more masculine in my mind. Like I don't know. I sort of equated shorter men who were more on the like the average height of a woman as being slightly less masculine, which I know is really fucked up to think that way. But I mean, when you're 23, you don't know shit about the world. And but yeah, no, it doesn't bother me in the slightest to date someone shorter than myself now, because I've matured. Like I don't care about stuff like that. The tallest person that I ever encountered was actually taller than Patrick. He was like 6'9.5" or something like that. Like he was almost 7 feet tall. He literally had to duck every time he walked through a doorway. And he was also close to 500 pounds. But at that height, it was just distributed, in such a, like, his arms and his legs were huge and very thickly muscled, but then he had this big belly as well. And yeah, I don't think that I don't really run into people that are that tall that often.
I'm curious to know for you, Patrick, as the taller person here, do you find that when it comes to dating or sex or really any kind of flirty anything, do you find that you get people who fetishize you for your height versus people who show interest in you just because you're great?
Yeah, no, I definitely have had a few messages on the dreaded site that will not be named about like, oh, you're so tall, I'd love to be so tall, you want to get taller for me. I'm like, first of all, that's not physically possible because I can't control how tall I get. Secondly, no.
But you were talking to a macrophile, sweetie.
I'm aware. I'm very much
you knew they were a macrophile? Okay. Anyone who ever says, would you like to get taller? They're a macrophile.
Yeah, no, I know. I tend to attract them because of, the height. And I'm like, it's sweet that you like me, but I'm not like that. My current partner, they're really kind of okay with it. They're also 5'10", and they're a bit, I like you being tall because I like to feel short. and like protected. And I'm like, well, cool. I haven't actually met anyone taller than me before, so I don't know how that feels.
I feel like the only time that it's an inconvenience is when, I'm the taller one and we have to, like, something is up high and he asks me to reach for it and I'm just like, curse your shortness. Or if we're in a store and he's the same height as all the displays and I can't see him anywhere in the store because he's too short, I'm like, where the fuck is he? Curse your shortness.
There is a usefulness in being the small human. I will say this to Tom frequently when we go to the shops. If it's like, because I always want the crisps that happen to be on the top shelf at the back. So I will usually go, tall human, do the thing. But then, of course, because I've attracted the attention of like doting little old ladies, they will usually try to snap him up afterwards and go, oh, now that you mention it, there's a can in the other aisle if you wouldn't mind helping. But I mean, even that, like those kind of incidental, oh, you're tall, you'll do. Like, do you encounter that in the wider world?
Yeah, mainly because a lot of my friends are, I don't know why, but I always attract the really short people. Like, I'm talking about 5 foot. Some of my friends are like 5 foot, and they're lovely. And we have a mutually beneficial transactional relationship. When I can't get down to the stuff on the floor because bending down is a pain, I'll be like, small person, hello friend, please.
Foragers, fetch the mushrooms from the woodland floor.
Literally. And then I'm like, and they're like, oh, can you reach something up on the top shelf? Because I can't get to it. It's literally about like eye level. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
There's a series of TikToks I must link you. Tom will send these to me constantly. It's like when you're a small person and it's usually some kind of like the phone's like on the ground, like an inch off the floor, and it's like this scuttling sound. Like when you have to try and open the fridge and it's like scuttling up a broom pole. And I'm like, that's not me. But yes, I am short. And I would consider it if I was shorter. How dare you come for my height?
What's kind of weird is like, so once I got over I don't know if weird is the right word for it, but anyway, after I got over the feeling weird about dating someone shorter, I actually started to feel more masculine and more powerful being the taller one, and being able to pick somebody up and throw them onto the bed and get to the, down and dirty was a pretty hot feeling. So
Patrick, I'm curious to know, do you know what you currently weigh?
About 300 pounds, roughly.
I basically wanted to draw, the whole point of that exercise was to draw a parallel of like, whether it's smaller people or bigger people focus so much on BMI and how widely different that can be based on height and how you can look, but also how it's not a reasonable marker for your health. How being someone who probably exists on the larger, more extreme end of the vertical spectrum, I would imagine you get caught with things like this a lot, things where people might try to draw parallels and say, oh, well, your BMI is XYZ, which means you're super unhealthy and you have to go on a diet immediately. When you're sitting there like, at 6'8", I am literally big boned. Like, actual physical density is a thing after a certain point.
Yeah, my most vivid memory of BMI and stuff is I was 10 and my school were doing like a physical fitness thing, and I was tall for a 10-year-old. Like, I've always been tall. I think I was about like 5'3", 5'4" then, maybe 5'5", and like, as I said, I was a little bit chunky, but not like every child's a bit chunky, let's be real. For the most part, a lot of children are chunky. And they were measuring me and they're like, oh, you're super obese, like you're going to, if you don't do a diet, you're going to like die by the time you're 20. And I'm like, okay, chill, thanks. I'm also taller than every other kid in my class and taller than most of the teachers at the school, so
I think it's interesting that there's such this idea of, well, the math says you're going to die, therefore you should change. Whereas you're not even looking at maths at that point. You're just looking in the mirror and going, bitch, use them eyes.
I can't do maths. Maths and I don't compute.
That's why you're an English person.
That is why I'm an English person.
But also, you are English. So that was a double entendre. My French is immaculate. Thank you.
Your French is atrocious.
My French is perfect, and I will not hear a word against
Tu
it.
ne parles pas le français.
Je ne parle une français.
You just said I'm called French.
Well, I
Bonjour,
am.
français.
Pardon, monsieur.
Yeah,
Donde
Monsieur.
está?
Have you got any Pano chocolate available for purchase? Oh, viewers, listeners, Patrick's face. My God, you look pained.
I am so pained. I can only imagine if you pulled this stunt with Finn, he would
Actually, madam.
murder you. I've only got a GCSE in French, and I'm already feeling very pained.
You, Finn, and John, I'm pretty sure, like, even if as a joke, I walked up to someone, I was like, hey, can I get a croissant, please? Someone would turn around and be like, oh, no, sweetie, no, croissant. And I'm like, croissant? No. Croissant? No. Croissant.
It could be worse.
And if you continue
Over
doing
here-
it, we would just push you into the Thames.
Over here in the US, we were so damn lazy that we had to invent another type of pastry altogether, and we call it a crescent roll. So that's how lazy we are.
America's got a lot more issues than names of pastries.
I know, but because I was just making a dumb comparison because like one of the most popular, because James was fascinated by this idea of bread in a can, like he had never heard that before.
I'm still terrified.
I'm also horrified by that.
Yeah, so that's a big popular thing over here is bread in a can, and instead of croissants, we changed it to crescent rolls because I don't know, people are just they can't be bothered.
I mean, there's also like the fashion designer Lacroix, Sweetie Lacroix, and you have a drink
Sweetie
that,
delight,
that you'll pronounce LaCroix.
I know, and I pronounce it LaCroix because I had taken French, and like I knew that, and we even people like the island in the Caribbean, they'll say Saint Croix, which I don't know. Is it supposed to be pronounced Saint Croix or is it supposed to be pronounced Saint Croix?
Saint Croix. I would imagine Saint Croix.
Saint Croix.
Yeah, but it's always pronounced Saint Croix all the time. So I don't know with that one.
My understanding with the drink is because the company apparently named themselves as LaCroix, written that way, spoken and pronounced that way, to be distinctively non-French. Like they wanted to appear fancy but be down to earth or something like that.
Oh,
Which is the most like...
that's such an American thing to do.
I think it's British as well. just to put it out there.
I don't know, because we have a lot of French names that are pronounced French, like Evian.
Like,
Oh yeah,
Water. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then we just go Yvonne, right?
Yvonne.
No, if you say Yvonne, you'll get pushed into the Avon River. in
Oh, the
Stratford.
Avon, right.
Avon.
The Avon. Are you having a laugh?
No. Are you having a dip in the river?
You know, the dipping river. Yes. I don't go skinny dipping. I go chunky dunking. I like it, bitch.
I'm going to use that.
I like that. I'm going to use it too.
Thank you. So, we talked a little bit about BMI. I want to ask, I feel like this is a very obvious answer to this, but like, is there a disadvantage to being tall when you're gaining?
Yes. Like, obviously you have to consume more to, just survive, which is always great when you're trying to put on weight because you're like, oh, I'm eating so much. Wait, no, I'm not. Which is always fun to have to work out in your head. And then, you've also got the whole aspect, like, because you're so tall, you gain in different places, and it's not always like as much as you thought it would. Like when I came home from uni, I put on, over the pandemic, I put on about 70 pounds, give or take.
70, big number.
70, yes, because I was starving myself at uni because I had no money.
Oh yes, uni life. No regrets.
Yes.
On that.
Oh, absolutely brilliant uni life. Loved it so much. But then I didn't feel any bigger or look any bigger because it was all going kind of everywhere along the body.
Mm. I mean, that almost comes down to the conversation on body shapes in general. You know, I think Tim and I are shaped very similarly, which I think the common parlance is to say you're apple-shaped, being that your stomach is very spherical, which lends itself to a lot of people who are into mpreg and the whole X-stroke fantasy. Like, I get it. But, you know, that's one shape of body, and that's where a lot of my weight goes, is my stomach and my ass and my thighs, which I love. I love those things looking bigger. But I look at my arms and I'm like, I feel like they're so thin. I feel like, you know, the titties, they could use a little bit more. But but that's also the trade-off with bodies. Sometimes you don't know what your body's going to do when you get fat. Like, I was the first fat person in my family. Still am. Like, I had no idea what was waiting for me shape-wise when I started putting on weight. Like, I'm curious, are there any other exceptionally tall people in your family? Do you know where it comes from?
My mum's 6'1", which is quite tall for a woman.
Mm.
Other than that, not particularly. Like, my nan is 5'10", no, 5'8", which again is quite tall for a woman just in her 70s. I don't know why I'm so tall, because a lot of my family are around the 6 foot mark, but like, I'm, you know, closer to 7 foot than I am to 6, which is a weird thing to think.
The Lord gave you a little bit extra, honey.
Yes, by Lord you mean the singer. Yes, she did give me a lot extra.
She did. Lord the singer. She actually came when you were a child in the womb, and she did that thing where she like stretched out all of your limbs manually and went, he could use a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So to Lord the singer, thank you.
Yes.
But I'm curious, do you have an idea of like what a more spherical version of yourself might look like based on size and proportion in your family? Or again, does that kind of go out the window because of your height?
I kind of got a little sense, because it's like, obviously as you get older, your metabolism slows down. So like parents and grandparents and stuff, I've kind of seen where the weight gets distributed on them. And it's kind of the same as where it is distributed on me, which is like stomach and butt. I have a very nice butt, and I'm 100% proud of that fact. And
I feel like we've said this on the podcast before. As scientists, we are evidence-based folk here, and whilst we appreciate your claims, you are going to need to submit some proof to the scientific journal known as my DMs before we can share your findings in the next scientific journal. I'm sure you can understand it's a very strenuous process.
oh, completely. I would submit my findings to you thusly.
Fantastic. You know, I'd really hate for all the listeners to miss out on the latest report.
Yes, in fact, I will do so now, because I have plenty of butt photos on hand.
Oh, fantastic. Listeners, you're getting a first-hand
You're gonna get a live action exposure
of scientific journalism here on the podcast. We're very much in favor. And Tim is just shaking his head.
Well, I feel left out of the conversation.
What was
I
that
was just going to say that because my butt never got any bigger, unfortunately. So I'm feeling bereft of booty.
Legasp.
Legasp.
Delish, delight, delove. Ah.
What, me? Little
Yes. Marvelous. He has an enormous Schwanzstücke.
Well, yes, that goes without saying.
Have you seen Young Frankenstein, Patrick? No. Okay.
I just speak German.
Oh, does Schwanzstücke actually mean something then?
I have no clue, because I only did it at GCSE.
Right, okay. Well, German listeners, you know, they make a reference to a penis and they call it a Schwanzstücke. So if you know what that actually means, or if it's just gibberish, comment below. Write in. We're standing by. We're here to take your calls. I am curious. How does your height play into your gaining journey and vice versa?
I think, well, to start with, I think that starting gaming definitely made me feel more confident in my height. Because like I was like, well, I'm earning my weight. I might as well earn my height. Like they're kind of linked, really. Like you can't, well, you can control your weight. Obviously, that's what we're doing. But like your height is so important as well. So you know as well kind of enjoy it. And I guess in terms of like gaming, being tall, obviously you just have to think a little bit harder about kind of what you're doing with your body, because like what you're putting into it, and also kind of the wear and tear and stuff of everything. Because like I've said before, I'm 21. I've already got back problems because of my height. They're not going to get any easier with gaining weight and stuff, but you know, take the good with the bad, and the good outweighs the bad, in my opinion, at the moment.
What about your knees and your ankles? Do they suffer any strain because of your height?
Mainly not because of my height, mainly my back. Like my ankle on my left foot I've got a hairline fracture across it that I've had since I was a kid. That's just never got better. But you know, used to that now.
And that's just because of the height, or is that?
No, I fell over on the floor as a fridge was defrosting in my kitchen, and I broke my ankle.
Oh, Baba. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's fine. It just means I can't run. Oh no, how sad.
Sit down and have a donut to make yourself feel better, fatty. Oh, God. Because, okay, we've all done that. We've seen like a really fit guy who you think to yourself, God, he'd look really hot if you put on 50 pounds. And then you think, God, if you could just like break his legs, you know what I mean? Like nothing crippling, nothing, too intense. You know, you want him to get better. You want him to recover. But in that time in which he has been sat there eating his feelings, he's developed quite the weight gain scenario, and he just cannot get back into the life that he once had. And now he will forever be a chunk, the uber chungest, sat there eating and consuming for my personal pleasure.
That's just because you're a Scorpio. You're like, oh, I benefit from someone suffering. Let's do it.
What is it with you Scorpios and Schadenfreude?
Oh my God. Okay, but I do love some Schadenfreude though. That's no joke. But like, did I tell you the story about like Pottermore?
No, maybe.
No. So like, obviously, like most people, huge Harry Potter nerd. And then over the years, like Facebook quizzes and BuzzFeed quizzes, like all that kind of shit. Like did every Harry Potter quiz that came out, and would always get like a smattering of all 4 houses, right? And so when Pottermore was first announced and they were doing an official sorting, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the official sorting. There is no other test that anyone will ever have to do. This is it. You will find out what house you belong into forever. This is the one. I was so excited. And I was there with my partner, and I was there with my best friend, and we sat down, and I'd kind of had an idea like, oh, they're a Hufflepuff, they're a Ravenclaw. And do you know what? Their quizzes proved to be true. He got Hufflepuff, he got Ravenclaw, and they both answered like 15, 20 questions each. One was longer than the other. I couldn't remember whose, which made sense. It's like, okay, if it asks less questions, it's because you're more clearly and distinctly that house. I was like, okay, great. So excited to find this out. I did 3 questions and it gave me Slytherin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was so angry. I turned to my partner and I was like, you take this test again and prove that it's a rigged system. But then my friend comments and says, but James, isn't that what a Slytherin would do?
Well, what house did you imagine you would be sorted into?
I thought maybe Ravenclaw or Gryffindor.
How come nobody ever wants to be in Hufflepuff? What's up with that? Why is everyone always shitting on Hufflepuff?
Have you seen the I'm a Hufflepuff video?
Yes, but I don't think it's accurate.
I can't digest lactose. I'm a Hufflepuff.
Well, you know what? If you guys want to have a laugh, go and look up on YouTube Sailor J. She does makeup looks for all the Harry Potter houses, and when she gets to Hufflepuff, she's like, if y'all hate us so much, why do you want to sleep with everybody in our house?
That's true, actually.
She's an actress now. She's been quite
really.
Yeah, she's on a TV show now. She's on Nosferatu.
Oh my God, good for her. What's the one that she did where she was like blending? If the men find out that
contouring,
they'll have to tell the church. And I was like, this is
pretend that you don't have nostrils. Men don't like nostrils.
And a random pterodactyl screaming, "Rah!" Like just so good. Love it. Oh my god.
Men will be bewitched and hand over their wallets.
What unexpected things have you learned about your height because of your gaining journey and vice versa?
I suppose that people find it attractive. Like that's like the first thing that comes to mind is I never thought that I was kind of attractive or my height was considered attractive before, because people like I just never considered it attractive beforehand. And then when I kind of finally became part of the community at 18, everyone was like, oh wow, like you're so hot, you're so tall, I love that. I'm like, thank you.
I think that there is something about human nature when it comes to like bigness. Like I honestly sometimes think that gaining and encouraging could be boiled down to just a fetish for size difference. And like I mean, speaking as both a gainer and a macrophile, like that's hot to me that a guy is not only that tall but also chubby. So it's I think there's just something about human beings, we like that disparity in height, the disparity in weight, and someone that's either bigger than us or smaller than us.
There's also comedy there. Like you've always got someone who is just super, super big and someone who's super, super small. I mean, even on the subject of Harry Potter, you've got Vernon Dursley, who was short and fat, versus Petunia, who was tall and thin. There's always that contrast of characters that lends itself to comedy, to romance, to situations and scenarios. And it does make sense that there would be an attraction to it. I mean, the gaining fetish is essentially increasing your physical dimensions to the left and the right and the front and the back. It does make sense to me that there would be an element of gainer sexuality that lends itself to the top and bottom vertical axis of things, which, as you say, that's where the macrophiles come in and romp around. Have you considered?
And just as a source of curiosity for the macrophiles who might be listening, what size shoe do you wear?
UK size 13.
Do you know what that is in US?
US size 13.
Oh, it's a US size 13?
I think so. I've worn US size 13 shoes before, and
because I would think at that height you'd be wearing like a 22 or something.
No, I've got quite, I wouldn't say small, but I've got like regular person feet.
Oh, little small feet, little SMOL, small. Little small feet.
Listen here. I will squash you.
Yeah.
Tim's like, I give full permission. Please do it right now. God, thinking back to my student days where it's like, what's on the menu this week? Why, Monday, it's mee goreng. And Tuesday, it's mee goreng. Wednesday through Sunday, mee goreng. Breakfast and lunch, you ask? Why, yes, mee goreng. Without spice packets. You guys have mee goreng, yeah? You know what that is, right, Patrick?
I'm assuming it's like pot noodle-esque stuff.
Yeah, like it was basically, because I've seen it here. It's like a packet of like freeze-dried noodles, like where you do the thing where you like open it up and you crunch them, and you pour hot water and you put the plate over so it steams the 3 minutes.
Ramen noodles, packaged ramen. That's what.
Yeah. But mee goreng was very specifically like, every pack would come with this beautiful long line of like little sachets where it's like freeze-dried vegetables, chili powder, soy sauce, wasabi, something else. And it was always like you could basically mix and match whatever you wanted to like create a flavorful meal, which was wonderful because you could bulk buy like a 48 pack box of mee goreng for like $5, which is truly all I would ever have for food for a week. And I was like, Mama's going to eat diversely this evening. I do still get cravings at times, but, it's funny reflecting on student life. Like, it's why I've never felt compelled to go back and finish my degree, because I just don't want to give up money. And I don't want to go back to eating fucking nothing. I like eating. In fact,
to be fair, you're in the centre of London. Like, the number of unis around you, should you want to.
But I did film. So in order for me to finish that degree, I'm going to have to like go in, commit, do the thing.
True.
And like, I don't know, film students are all sweaty.
Well, and you know, the arts are just such a really difficult field to break into, honestly. I mean, commercial film, I'm sure, is a little bit easier, but like I went to art school too. And, you know, when I realized that I was going to graduate over $100,000 in debt, I was like, forget it. Like this isn't worth it. And to not have a job at the end of it, like I'm not dealing with that.
I was about to say, Patrick, do you feel seen right now?
I feel seen. I feel attacked. I feel
mean,
morally destroyed.
No, I mean, I understand why people keep up with it. And I think that we still need art school. I think they just need to drop the price and they need to work with corporations, companies, whatever they have to do to get people placed in a job after they graduate with an arts degree.
It kind of makes me think, right? Like, I love the future of like Thicc Radio and Pekismos is going to be things where it's like, Patrick, with your creative writing skills, you know, being able to be like, we really want to commission someone to write like fetish porn. We've scoured the internet, we've got our list of, you know, different fetishes, but we've really realized that there is so little gut punching stuff. We're going to commission you to do the research and really try and turn out like a good book of things.
I'd say thank you, but I'm not a novelist and I can't write dialogue.
Ah.
That's why I'm a poet.
Cut!
Yeah.
Cut!
Screw you!
Yeah, get out! You'll never work in this town again! Yeah.
That's fine. I know more publishers than you, it's chill.
Though genuinely, we may want to like use that resource when we eventually like write our book. Oh yeah, by the way, I've bullied Tim into like co-authoring a book with me at some point.
I'm not a writer either, so this is going to be interesting.
You're the Trixie and Katya of the gaming world.
Thank you.
Which ones are we?
Okay, I feel like personality-wise, you're the Trixie and I'm the Katya because you're more grounded and I'm very like, well, actually, no, that's Trixie, never mind. I'm more like, do you ever think about like blood? Like, I think that's more my vibe.
I can agree with that.
But in terms of like fan favorite talent divvy up, I think you're more the Katya because I think you're the one that people are going to want to win All Stars, but I'm the one that's going to go on to like release the soundtrack and have the makeup line.
And actually win All Stars.
And actually win All Stars. The one that everyone's going to go, Shangela should have won, and I'll be like, I agree.
I mean, if I could take my pick, I'd like to have the humor of Bianca, but I guess the overall talent of someone like Courtney or Derek Barry.
Patrick, who do you think you are in the you know how on season 7 they were like, I'm the so and so of drag. Who are you so and so of drag?
I'm fully like, see, the pessimist in me and the person who the person with the mental health issues, like, I'm the one who goes home first, so I'm like the pork chop. But I think I'm the Sasha Velour kind of ish, because I like to think I'm quite smart and cultured, but I'm also like batshit crazy.
I should have mentioned that when I have a mental breakdown, I'm more like Pheromone.
Just a lot of like,
like that meme of her just like, you know, like putting her hands over her face and like that's me.
When I have mine, I'm the you don't love me pheromone to everyone. It's like, you don't love me.
You don't love me. Who am I then?
See, I don't know if I know these girls well enough to really like it. Like, I do think that you are like the Katya of this community, but I'm trying to think of like, I mean, you have a little touch of Bianca. You have a little touch of Jujubee.
You know, I think Bianca B.
Bianca B.
Or
Bianca. I think Lawrence Cheney.
Lawrence Cheney! Absolutely. I did deserve to win my season, but everyone will go out of their way to say the skinny blonde bitch was better, and if I ever see you in person, I will murder you. And I'll go, great!
I've been to your country. I know what you're like. I know what your people are like.
You've seen from whence this came.
I have seen, no, I've seen worse. I went to Melbourne.
Melbourne's where the culture is, mate. I'm from Perth. I'm as far away from that in Australia as you can fucking get.
And I've been to Brizzy too, so you know.
Okay, so you've seen the site of the 2024 Olympics. Great. Out of all the places in Australia, they decided they were going to host the Olympics. Brisbane? Fuck hell. It's because of the Gold Coast. I know it's because of the Gold Coast, but fuck the Gold Coast.
Hey, I mean, the Cleveland hosted the gay games, and I have no idea why.
The gay games?
Yeah, it's like the gay version of the Olympics.
Is that?
I don't think they do it in any other country but here. And it moves around, same as the Olympics does every 4 years. And my ex-husband was actually on the committee to get them to come to Cleveland because they were choosing between Atlanta, DC, Cleveland, and one other city I can't remember. And they came to Cleveland, and fuck if I know why, but
Gay games, is that like biggest most amounts of dicks sucked in a minute? I don't know.
Wow, the volunteer from Australia. He's got 74 dicks up inside of his asshole, and he has not split. This is incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing history in the... Oh, no, there it goes.
Perhaps if that were true, more people would have turned out to watch it. It's just like any summer games, you know. They did basically the Olympic Summer Games, but it was that, because I believe, if I am not wrong, that there are still policies on the books with the Olympics that you can't disclose your sexuality, or that you could be potentially discriminated against if you're openly gay in the Olympics or some shit like that. So that's why they created the gay games, because then athletes could be completely out and open without fear of that stuff. And yeah, but I mean, I don't think that I went to any of the events, and the big after party when it was all over was held in a part of town that was way too small to hold it. And I was going to go because Lance Bass was supposed to be there, but then I was like, yeah, fuck it, whatever.
I mean, to all the listeners out there, you should come to the Highland Games. You have big, strong, burly men who don't wear underwear under their kilts.
Oh, and they lift big things, don't they? Boulders and logs.
They lift me.
Oh, that's hot.
I'm gonna be the log in the log toss.
Oh my god, that's hot.
I know.
And it's just you with your arms.
And I'll be in tartan too.
A tartan.
Yeah.
Oh, original.
Oh, my clan tartan is actually really bright.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's like green and red and yellow.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So on the side of the podcast, there is a strong assumption that taller guys equate to being more dominant and more masculine. Is that how you would describe yourself? If not, do you find those assumptions to be a negative thing?
Much like everything in my life, as an Aquarius, I'm indecisive about absolutely everything. So I don't see myself as dominant or like submissive. I'm versatile in terms of that. And like masculinity, who is she? We don't know her.
Yeah.
Which I think comes as a surprise to a lot of people when they're like, "Oh, you're so tall, you must be like really masculine." I'm like, "Have you met me before?" Like, and if you're starting a conversation with, "Oh, you're so masculine," I'm not gonna want to talk to you.
What's that song by SZA where it's like, "I feel like fucking," and it's the meme on TikTok. It's like, "Rocking with the man, ding," and like you do the hand thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's you just in your life being tall, like.
No, that pretty much is. I deliberately dress like gay to be like, I am not straight, nor am I super masculine.
I like that. You've expressed before that your height means you can come under the person with disabilities label. How do you relate to that?
I mean, I personally don't identify as disabled because I think, well, I don't get any of the benefits of that at the moment because I don't have a car, so I can't get my blue disabled badge. When I get my car, different story.
It'll be a whole new world.
I guess with the whole disability thing, it's just like the little things with at the moment with it is like whether I'm able to enter buildings and stuff without stooping. I'm taller than the doors in my house, so I have to always bend to get through them. When I was 17 or 18, just before I went to uni, we went on a trip to Thomas Hardy's house in Dorset. I was taller than the whole first floor.
Wait, Thomas Hardy as in like Tom Hardy, the actor?
No, Thomas Hardy is in the writer of Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Middlemarch. Not Middlemarch, no. Yes, maybe. I don't know.
Very different from the Tom Hardy that I would like to, if Tom Hardy is listening, present him with every open opportunity to actually no, I'm not going to say that because that's extremely inappropriate. And that's how you know,
I know what you were going to say.
Because I stopped myself before I said it.
I know what you were going to say, and I agree with you.
No, you don't know what I was going to say, and you should be grateful you don't know what I was going to say. Because
I feel like I know what you were going to say.
What do you think I was going to say?
Come in your throat, snap your neck, and hide the body.
No, I wasn't going to say that, actually. What I was going to say, it was 10 times worse. So I will text it to you.
I look forward to reading this.
I need Tim to not know, because I need Tim to still have some respect for his co-host.
You imagine that I respect you?
Ah!
Although, how random would it have been if they had taken his class to Tom Hardy's house? They'd be like, here, we're going to the home of this actor just because. Like, what would the point be?
Oh!
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I imagine that whatever it was you sent him was pretty friggin' dirty.
Well,
I would say destructive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad. Anyways, regardless, that's not making it into the program because, listeners, I'm a good person. That's all you need to take away from this experience. You can't see Patrick shaking his head and holding up a crucifix, but please ignore him. It's not about him. It's about me. I'm a good person.
Scandalous lies.
Lies and slander.
Also, it is about me. Aren't I the guest?
Oh yeah, that's true. You are the guest, aren't you?
Did you
I mean,
forget
I'll
what we
take
were
your job.
doing?
I'll take your job. It's fine. I'll take your job.
Well, yeah. You know what? Give us the intro. Give us the intro to Thicc Radio as you would do it.
Hi, welcome to Thicc Radio. I am Patrick.
Well, if I ever am in need of an interim, I'll keep you in mind.
I'll be the Bob to your Katya. It's fine. I'll just take over seamlessly.
Yes, when I have my drug-induced psychosis and I have to go to 3 months, that'll do.
Yes.
Ah, perfect. Well, we've got a listener question. So, our listener asks, what clothing brands would you recommend for taller gainers, including shoes?
Right. Don't go on big and tall websites because they are patronizing, and I swear to God, if I have to hear another, I shopped at like bigandtall.com.co.uk and whatever, I'll be like, I used to shop with them and they are so patronizing and condescending with their names, like large and in charge. I'm like, no, I'm not if I'm shopping with you. But definitely Boohoo. All of my stuff that I wore for my graduation, which I have shown, I put on the
Yes.
Yes, I've shown to you.
I did see.
They were all Boohoo, and they go up to 5XL, and they're all very stretchy stuff. So you could probably get more than a 5XL person in them. ASOS also do really good.
Yeah, their big and tall line I've heard is quite good, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's surprisingly good. I've gotten a lot of stuff there in the past. And shoes, Doc Martens all the way, because you can live your leather fantasy and also look fashionable while doing them. I have 3 pairs of Doc Marten boots, one red, one blue, and one with tattoos all over them. I love them so much. They are my life. I would gladly die for them.
I just haven't been able to justify spending that much money on a pair of boots yet.
I get them for Christmas presents.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I'm like,
because
no,
I love me a pair of Doc Martens. They're like the best, as a leather man, they're like the best leather footwear. But like, again, I don't want to drop $250 on a pair of shoes.
There was a actual like Doc Marten store in Newcastle, and I had to fight myself every time from going in there and just coming out with another pair of boots.
What is the most important thing you want smaller people to understand about you and your lived experience as someone who's taller?
Stop asking me what the weather is like up here, because I will throw you into the stratosphere if you keep asking. Then you can tell me what the weather is like up there.
I appreciate that.
No, but seriously, it's not all it's cracked up to be being tall. please stop saying me, oh, I wish I was taller, I wish X, Y, and Z, I wish I was like 6'8", I want to be 6'8". No, you don't. It hurts.
Do you think there's something to the lived reality of being physically on the more extreme end of things that perhaps gainers who want to be wider might need to consider?
Oh, completely. Like I was listening to Weighty Matters as Finn's episode, we were talking about like fantasy versus reality. There's definitely things that like people who want to get into like the 600, 700 pounds kind of life that they're going to be living would need to know that I feel like I can kind of, that I also know as someone who is physically extreme height wise, like your joints are going to hurt all the time, no matter what you do. And when you go to the doctors about it, they will say probably either, yeah, they hurt because you're fat, or they hurt because of X, Y, and Z. Whereas, it might just be because you've got arthritis in your back. Be prepared to not get taken seriously by medical professionals is what I'm going to say. And I feel like any gamer can attest to that.
Do you know, I think that maybe is a little something we should talk about real quick, because, we do want to talk about this more on some episodes regarding health. But, as someone who's taller, we hear this feedback a lot from plus size people that you go to a doctor with a cold. Why do I have a cold? It's because you're fat. And here's a diet to go on to cure your cold. Doctor, I've got a cut on my finger and I think it might be infected. Oh, it's because you're fat. Put down the donut and maybe you won't have a cut on your finger. Like, there's feedback from people who didn't know they were pregnant because the doctor fully just assumed, no, that's fat. I'm not going to bother doing an ultrasound on that. Oh, but my period stopped. Yeah, well, that's what you get for being such a fat thing. Like, that kind of rhetoric is so toxic and dangerous, because if anyone out there listening isn't aware of this, fat doesn't actually equal unhealthy. Fat is not even causational when it comes to unhealth. It is correlated based on certain factors, but even then it's not guaranteed. And even then it is not a justification. Like, if someone turned around and said, God, I've had to have a limb amputated because of diabetes and stuff, and then you turn around and go, well, you deserved that. It's a bit cunty. It's a bit rude and a bit unnecessary. And I'd really hope that if you found yourself in a position where you had your leg amputated, that you didn't have someone turning around going, you deserved that. Like, Tim, you're a medical professional.
Yes.
Like, what's your take on two things? Mm-hmm. One, what is your take on the way the medical industry treats fat people? But also, in your experience, what is your take on the way the medical industry treats people who are tall, like how Patrick is tall?
I mean, I would say overall that the medical industry looks at, it tries to cast a lot of aspersions and shame on being fat. Like, they will try to correlate disease processes or comorbidities on being obese. Like, it shows up right there in the medical chart. You are considered clinically obese, and then all these other things are listed as part of what the main problems are caused by that. So, and especially if it's something like diabetes, I mean, of course they're gonna say, well, you've got diabetes because you're fat. No other reason, just you're fat. And arthritis because you're fat. Hypothyroid because you're fat. Kidney problems because you're fat. As far as being exceptionally tall, I have not had a lot of patients that I can think of that have been as tall as Patrick. But I mean, I would think that the medical side of things would look at it like, well, you're probably going to have problems with the discs in your back because there's so much height, and that gravity is going to keep compressing on them. So you're probably going to develop problems in your knees, your ankles, your feet. I would just assume that that's the line that they would go with there. But like I said, I have not had any patients as tall as Patrick.
So here's a question for you, Patrick. As someone, again, living on the extreme end of the dimensions, what is some advice that you might give to someone who might be similar to you in that regard and might be struggling to seek medical advice, or who might feel hesitant to reach out to others because of that?
Don't always just go with the first diagnosis you get off a doctor. Ask for a second opinion. If you're not I know with America it's different because you have to pay for your doctor's appointments, but over here, if you're not happy with your GP, you can always request to move or request a second opinion from a different doctor at that practice. And I would definitely do that, because the amount of times I've had to seek a second opinion on something, it's too many to count.
What is the most important thing you want people to understand about you?
I'm more than my height, and my height may be part of me, but it doesn't define me. And my interactions with people should not just be about how tall I am.
I think that's perfectly fair, and I don't think that humanity is really too much to ask for. Patrick, I want to say thank you for joining us on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Where can we find you online?
On Instagram at wehavepatrick. Thank you very much for the name change. On Twitter at hairybellybearuk1, because someone already took hairybellybearuk. And on Grommr at, I think it's hairybellybearuk, because we like to switch things up.
I like that. But, that's it for another week on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a good review. As always, you can find me on Grommr, Instagram, and TikTok at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnumg.
And you can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok as Thicky Mouse. And of course, you can find more of what we talked about today on Instagram and Patreon at Thicc Radio.
And now we're on Twitter and TikTok too, also at Thicc Radio. So until
next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Anchor app podcast produced by Stan and Thicky Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stan.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.